What's up, guys? Hope you're well. I hope you're having a fantastic day. You're going to have to excuse my voice a little bit through this. I'm still overcoming a bit of illness and whatnot, so you're going to have to, excuse the croakiness. So I'll do my best to remain as clear as possible throughout this video. But today we're going to get into the old overthinking conundrum. I know this is something that I personally have often struggled with and often got caught up in. I know a lot of the people that I work with have this as a major challenge, and I know a lot of you guys out there that I've never worked with are also having this challenge as well, which is probably why you're watching this video. So I wanted to create a video, a free resource that explores this a little bit more. And what I'm about to go through is all actually relatively new revelations to myself. I've sort of started looking at it in a slightly different way. And obviously, we're going to anchor this to your body and achieving your dream body and creating that. But as we'll go through, I'm sure there'll be a lot of different examples and scenarios in your life that you can relate overthinking to, whether it's around your relationship, your friendships, your business, your work, your career, maybe your finances, or certain conversations you need to have, or certain situations you just get yourself into that you start to, as we'll explore, go down this rabbit hole and have thought after thought after thought, and it leaves you feeling tired, stressed, anxious, whatever it might be. Right? It's a very common, occurrence in today's society with so much input and whatnot, that overthinking is very, very prevalent. So I wanted to break it down and I guess give you guys not only more awareness around what's actually going on, but also around a different perspective, as you'll see in the title here, where I explain how you might be actually underthinking when you think you're overthinking. But we'll get into that later in the video. All right, so if we start with the actual process of overthinking, right? It generally comes about, get the old pen up here, generally comes about when we have one thought or trigger that then sends us down the rabbit hole, right? So the example I've used here is, cool, I might jump out of the shower and I'm going to my bedroom to get changed, and I catch a glimpse of myself naked in the mirror, right? So I'm seeing my body in the mirror. Now, a common thought is something negative when we see ourselves in the mirror and we see our body, especially exposed like that, right? So you might have some thoughts around, maybe there's some disgust, some embarrassment, some resentment, some sadness, some anger, maybe you feel a bit ashamed or whatever it might be, right? Some form of negative fear-based thought when you see your body in the mirror. And then, as I said, once we have that, we then can often find ourselves, wow, that was a very thick line. We can often find ourselves going down this rabbit hole after we've had that trigger, right? So I see my body and then bang, my mind kicks into overdrive and I start having all of these subsequent thoughts that stack on top of one another. Or it's like imagining yourself like standing in a hole, right? You're standing in a hole, which is your initial trigger thought. And then every thought you have, it's like you're digging a little bit deeper, right? Down into this hole. And eventually you get to the end of it and you kind of come up for air and you're looking up and you realize how deep you've dug that hole, right? So some examples might be, cool, I see my body, people are going to judge me. So now you start worrying about going out and what clothes you're going to wear and how people are going to see you, right? You then start questioning, why can I never, this is a little bit thick, isn't it? Let's make this a little bit smaller. You're going to start questioning why you can never stick to your training and nutrition to allow yourself to change your body, right? So now you start beating yourself up about that. You start having thoughts around, this is just the way it's going to be because I've tried to change before, but I never can. And this is how I'm going to be forever. What I'm seeing in this mirror, this is how I'm going to be forever. And then that starts multiplying, right? Maybe you'll never attract the right partner. You think, well, how is this person staring back at me in this body going to attract the right partner? No one's going to be attracted to me, so I'm going to be single forever, right? Maybe you're going to lose friends. Maybe you then get to this bottom line here where you're like, why do I even bother trying? And then that may spiral even further and you might end up either not sleeping if this happened late at night, or you might cancel your whole day, stay inside, eat food, watch Netflix and feel sorry for yourself, right? All because of this initial trigger of seeing yourself in the body, right? And this is the process of overthinking in the way we think about overthinking, right? It's based off a thought, based off one little thing that sends us spiraling, that sends us down this rabbit hole that continues to see ourselves dig and dig and dig and dig and dig until we look up and it feels incredibly overwhelming and we're like, how do I even get out of this, right? How am I supposed to turn this around? And that's a really challenging place to be. And again, I have been there many times. I continue to be there, even, as often as yesterday. So it's like, it's not a matter of necessarily never overthinking again and always being so clear and so positive and da-da-da. It's like, that's not going to happen. But once we start gaining awareness of what's actually happening, what's really going on, what our, the role our ego is playing in this, and a few other things that we're going to go into, once we can start to have awareness around that, we can get out of it a lot quicker. Now, that's something I talk to my clients about a lot, is it's like, you're going to have bad days. You're going to have days where your thoughts are all over the place, your language is shitty, and yeah, you fall into this overthinking spiral and this overthinking rabbit hole. It's like, cool. For me, it's not about getting them to stop doing that completely. Like, hey, if that happens around a certain topic, then that's awesome. But it's like, if we can improve your awareness and if we can then reduce the time that you spend down this rabbit hole, going through all of this stuff, that to me is a massive win, and it's your ability to get yourself out of it, right? So that's the foundational stuff here. Now, my belief, right, this is my belief, and the way I choose to see it, and what we're going to go through here is that we can almost always trace all of these subsequent thoughts, so all of this stuff here, we can almost always trace those back to an overarching belief system, right? So chances are, when you see yourself in the mirror, there is this like the master key belief system that you have, that you hold about yourself, that might have come about through experience or memories of your past, or something someone said, or maybe comparison to the norm, or whatever it might be. You have an overarching belief system that then elicits all of these thoughts, right? So it's like, as I've said down the bottom here, all of the other thoughts, so all of the things that stack on top of each other, all of the subsequent times you put your shovel in and dig your hole deeper, are merely symptoms of this belief, and they just become chatter, right? It's just like that voice that just won't shut up in your head, right? All this is resistance and your ego confirming the belief to keep you there, right? Because we've got to remember, or we've got to know, if this is the first time hearing this, our ego likes sameness. It likes repetition. So it wants to keep you at the exact stage of your life you're at, as the exact person you are. So if you're having these thoughts and you're seeing yourself in the mirror in a negative way, and that's who you are, and you have belief systems around it, and you have actions around it, and your environment supports that, etc., 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 it wants to keep you there because that is what is known. That is what is safe, right? So it's like, cool, this is who we are. So I'm gonna, and this is who we believe that we are. So I'm gonna defend myself, or we're going to defend ourselves to stay here because this is who we are. So anything that is a what's the word I'm looking for? Anything that is a threat to me not being this person anymore, i.e. growth, development, whatever it might be, I'm going to attack with all my might to keep us who we are, right? So if we're seeing ourselves as all of these things listed up here around our body, then all of these thoughts that we're having are simply ways to then keep us believing we're that person, and therefore keep us not taking action and keep us stuck. All right. So that's what our ego's job. So we can kind of dismiss all these other little things that pile on top of it, because it's like, okay, it's the actual overarching belief system we need to gain awareness of and work on, instead of worrying about putting out all these spot fires. If we focus on what's starting the fires in the first place and put that out, or get rid of that, that's going to, directly impact the spot fires, and they're not going to happen, right? I.e. the chatter. So you may find that you have an overarching belief system of that you are just not worthy, right? I'm not worthy of having a good body. I'm not worthy of being confident, of being happy, right? So if I believe that, then I'm going to create or keep myself in a body that mirrors that reflects that, me not being worthy. Maybe that's actually kind of similar, but yeah, maybe I think I'm not good enough based on maybe how an old partner, maybe I've been cheated on in the past, or maybe I've had someone tell me directly to my fucking face that I'm not good enough, or I don't look good enough. So now that is my belief. So now I and my ego are going to keep us exactly there. That's who we believe we are, right? And all the chatter, all the resistance is going to back that up. Maybe I have low self-belief. So maybe I've tried to change my body in the past, but I've always failed, right? I've never actually made changes or been able to keep it. So now my actual belief is low. So now when I see myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh, like I'm so triggered because I've tried to change this before, but nothing has ever worked and I've never actually been satisfied. So yeah, this is who I am now. This, like, I'm just not capable of change. I don't believe I can change. So this is where I'm going to stay. Ego's like, oh, cool. Like, this is who we are. This is who we're going to stay as. Sweet. Let me show you evidence to support the fact. Right? And that's, again, all of this stuff here. All of these pieces of chatter that keep us there. Keep us stuck. Right? So again, with our ego, we got to understand it's like, it may be seen as the enemy, and yeah, there are times where it is, but at the end of the day, we just need to understand what it's doing, which is trying to keep us safe, trying to keep us protected, trying to keep us comfortable, and trying to keep us in what we know. Right? Now, there is a big difference between all those things and developing and bettering ourselves, right? Because sometimes we don't want to be in the known and we don't want to be safe and comfortable, because that's not where growth happens, right? So just understanding what our ego is actually doing. And then we get to this part. So this is where we can start to see how we actually might be underthinking, and in fact, we're not actually overthinking. So what happens then isn't in fact overthinking, but instead results in us underthinking, because we have this thought and this trigger, right? And we are so used to believing that's who we are, that we go down this path, which is the path of the ego. And whilst we're overthinking, whilst we're in our head, whilst all this chatter is going back and forth and we can't like fucking think straight, all that's doing is confirming that belief, that overarching belief system, right? That's all it's doing. That's all that chatter's doing, is confirming that belief system, like the unworthiness, the low self-belief, whatever it might be. And it's giving you evidence of it. So chances are in that chatter, you're being reminded of evidence that you are in fact that, right? That version of you. You're not capable of achieving X, Y, Z. You can't attract the partner. You can't be confident in your body, whatever it is, right? We go down this thought, we go down this path, and we live in our ego, and we overthink in that scenario. Now, the solution to this and to overcome this is not found over here. It is not found over here. Right? The solution is found over here when we step into our higher self. Because at the moment, we are simply not thinking about the solution. We're not thinking about the positives. We're not thinking how we can actually start to implement change in order for us to move through this. Sorry guys, I just had to pause there. The eyes have just started running for some reason. But yeah, we're not actually thinking about the solution. We are so focused on confirming who we are. Our ego has become so strong. We have become on such autopilot that this is who we are, and this is the chatter associated with it, and this is the belief system, that we aren't actually utilizing our brain to think about the solution and how we can fix it, and understanding what's actually going on. And also understanding that all that chatter is so irrelevant, that there's just this core belief system that we need to focus on and overcome. And the way we do that is through taking action and actually creating the self-belief. It's through creating the worthiness, right? We don't get it by just thinking our way out. It's like, yeah, rewiring some belief systems and understanding some of that more in-depth inner world stuff is really helpful and useful. But if we're going to overcome this thought and this trigger, there needs to be some action taken so we can create new evidence, right? The only way we build self-belief and worthiness and confidence and all these things is by taking action and fucking creating it, not just thinking about it. But at the moment, we're being stopped in our tracks. We're not actually taking action on it. So of course we're not going to see the solution. Of course we're going to not see a different reality, because we're only thinking down this left-hand side, down this ego side. Whereas in fact, our higher self over here, the better version of ourselves, would either know the solution, and they probably know things that need to be done that are in your control that you just haven't been doing because you're so stuck in your ego, or having the awareness and having the humility to be like, you know what, I actually don't know what to do. I don't know how to overcome this, but but fuck do I want to. Like, I want to be done with this so much. I'm sick of this overthinking. I'm sick of not being able to sleep. I'm sick of feeling unworthy and having low self-belief or whatever. So I need to do whatever I can to get out of that, right? And that probably is going to mean to reach out to somebody or to get help or to do your own research or to listen to podcasts or to read certain books or whatever it might be, right? To actually be proactive about finding the solution and expanding your brain and actually thinking more in those times as to what can I do to overcome this, right? So we can start to see now, yeah, you're right. I've been overthinking in the micro, right, in relation to this, but I've been massively underthinking in terms of how can I actually get through this challenge that I am overthinking, right, by focusing on the solution. So, and yeah, here's the other thing. So if we constantly think of only one side of the equation, we'll continue placing our energy into that side and therefore continue creating it, right? If we're always focused on, we're always talking about the negatives and we're buying into all that chatter and whatever else, we're only ever going to focus on that, and therefore we're only ever going to create that, because that's all we're focusing on. All right? If I'm focusing on building a table, right, and all my energy goes into focusing on a table and the way to create a table, whatever, like, do you think I'm going to be able to create a chair? Of course not. How am I going to be able to create a chair? Because I'm not focusing on it. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not understanding what I need to do to create a chair. I'm just so focused on creating this table. That's where all my thoughts are. That's what I think about all the time. Think about everything to do with the fucking table. I'm probably going to create a table, not a chair. Right? So if you're constantly thinking about the negative side of things and you're overthinking on these finer details of how things are at the moment in terms of your body, for example, you're only going to continue creating and or staying in that version of you, in that body. That's where your attention's going. Down to here. So our brain needs stimulation, and at the moment it's getting that through your current crisis, right? So currently your brain is being stimulated through this negative part of your life, through the your negative association with your body. Your brain is being stimulated by that. So ask yourself, how can I stimulate my brain in the other direction? Right? How can I stimulate my brain over towards this higher self solution section? Right? Again, this is all awareness. It's not as simple as like, oh yeah, I'm just going to think about this side now. It's like, no, that's, it's probably not going to happen that way. But again, just being aware and catching yourself out when you start to feel yourself go down that rabbit hole. And again, it's just practice about pulling yourself up. Like, no, stop, like, don't dig any further, and having some things in place to stop that. All right. So question for you guys. When was the last time you consciously thought about solutions and the alternative to these negative thoughts? So when was the last time you got out your journal, you got out a pen and paper, and you wrote, okay, cool, this is my problem, right? So this is my problem. Body. Hate my body. Right? Well, cool. The solution is to change my body. Obviously, right? Because it's the body that's creating the confidence and the self-worth and the happiness and all these things. No, cool. Options to change my body. Sweet. Do I know how to change my body? Well, kind of, but I just can't stick to it, or I can't sustain it, or these thoughts always get in my head and then I stop. Cool. So you kind of do, but not really. Cool. Seek help. Right? Or if you do know how to do it, think about, okay, where can I take more action, or where can I take different action? And then how can I be consistent and patient with that to start seeing some changes, right? Because chances are, you guys know, again, I'm using the body as an example. This could be related to, as I said, anything that you're having challenges with. Chances are you know some stuff you need to stop doing, and chances are you know some stuff you need to start doing, right? If you're not moving much throughout the day and your steps are at like 4,000 a day, you know that if you want to lose weight, you should probably move more, right? So start being relentless in moving more. Right? You should probably stop, using excuses to not go to the gym, or you should probably stop eating so much takeaway. Cool. What can you change that for? How can you make minor improvements? Right? Start to think about alternative to just sitting in this body that you hate and are unhappy about. Or if you're like, you know what? I need to just fucking send this, and I'm so done with this. If the pain is so great, and the pain of where you're staying where you are is worse than the pain you perceive to change, then it's like, cool, I just need to put myself first here and just take massive action. And yeah, it's like, that's where I probably would want to seek help. And like, this isn't like, again, these videos are not meant to be sales pitches or anything, but like, I'm just going to speak out my truth. I'm like, if this is you and this is resonating with you, reach out to me. Like, this is what I do, right? You know, in relation to the body especially, it's like, yeah, we work through all of this stuff and we understand why you're overthinking, and we get to the root cause of these belief systems, so you can start to change the narrative for yourself, so you can actually start to see some results, right? So yeah, if you're at that point, like, reach out to me after you watch this, DM me, let's have a chat, tell me where you're at, right? And let's start focusing on some solutions so you can stop being controlled by this overthinking, right? Or underthinking. Yeah, and when was the last time you acted on the solutions consistently, right? So once you have them, are you patient? Are you actually consistent, right? And again, that's a whole nother video about why you can't be consistent. There's a lot of things like, obviously, is the method you're using actually right for you? Does it integrate into your lifestyle? Are you connected to the bigger picture and understanding how this benefits you in the grand scheme of your life as a whole, right? Different video, but again, worth asking the question. So yeah, to wrap up here, guys, I'll leave you with this question. It's like, where have you been underthinking, and how much longer will you choose the crisis that you're living in? Right? So where have you been only focusing on the negatives and the ego side? And like, yeah, how much longer are you going to live in the body that you don't like? How much longer are you going to be the person that has money problems? How much longer are you going to be the person that can't attract the right partner, or maybe you're staying in a relationship that doesn't serve you anymore? Right? How much longer do you want to stimulate your brain through this crisis, instead of stimulating it through happiness and enjoyment and this dream life and this dream body that you want to live? Right? When you make that decision, then shit can start happening, because you no longer need this crisis. All right, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed that and yeah, taken something away from it. I would absolutely love to hear from you guys that do watch this, just to let me know how you found it and what came up for you, and like, yeah, speak out where you're at to me. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear some of your stories and the challenges, and you know, what landed, what resonated. That would be incredible. I also just, yeah, would love to ask if this has been useful, to maybe give it a share on your socials. Again, I think a lot of people need this kind of awareness and need this kind of work, so the more people that this can be put out to, the better. And yeah, if you guys haven't checked out I've got 2 other of these types of videos up on the YouTube channel, so if you haven't watched those, I would, yeah, highly recommend you do, because they all kind of link in with one another, and I, yeah, generally believe they will provide a lot of amazing value. So yeah, appreciate you guys for watching. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you in the next video.